Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. It's absolutely true. So question for you.
Yes.
In high school, what was your favorite subject?
High school, favorite subject. Wow. Interestingly enough, I think it was English, but again, I didn't know that I didn't tap into my talent.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I liked it, but I didn't realize that I actually was talented. It was strange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And psychology. The one thing that I remember from high school that stands out for me is I took an AP psychology course.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up getting an award at graduation because I got the highest grade on the AP exam.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, I felt like I won an Academy Award.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even kidding. I was beaming. And I remember the feeling. I was like so excited,
Mm-hmm.
because that was so important to me. I didn't even care about anything else. So yes, definitely.
So looking back, why was psychology your favorite subject?
I knew from when I was young that I wanted to help people. When I was in college, I literally did this. I took my student loans and I paid for my own therapy. I didn't want my parents to know I was in therapy. I didn't want them to help me. Like I literally took that money and I found my own therapist. And I can't even tell you why I did all that. I have no clue. I just knew I knew that I wanted to be different. I knew I wanted a better life.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like when I was hugging that teddy bear, since I was tiny, like literally I was 3 or 4 years old. Maybe I couldn't articulate it, but I remember that I used to say to myself since I was little, this too shall pass, and
Mm-hmm.
I will have a life of my own.
Mm-hmm.
I will have a life. I said that from when I was tiny. I remember saying that this is not real life. Like I'm going to have my life
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be a good one,
Yeah.
So I had that resilience in me. Yes. From when I was little.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you graduate high school. Did you go to college right away?
I did. I went to college right away.
Where'd you go?
I went to Brooklyn College. Yeah. So I was actually, I grew up very sheltered. So I
Mm-hmm.
do want to say that I grew up very sheltered in my community where I lived. It like you basically didn't go away for college. You
Mm-hmm.
went to a local college. It was an extension of high school. I did go abroad for a year. That was like a huge, learning experience. I did go for a year. I did a gap year. I did go away for a year. Then I went to college and then I went straight through. I went to graduate school. Um, I went for my master's and then at that time also, you couldn't do a master's and then a PhD. You had to be in the field for 2 or 3 years before you went on to a PhD. So
Why's that?
I don't know, that's just the way they did it back then. Yeah, who knows? So I did a postmaster's training in between, and I was able to get into a PhD program because you had to be in the field for 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
but I was able to get in with special permission after 2 years. I was in a rush.
You're kidding.
Yeah, I was able to get into a PhD after 2 years. I had to go in front of a board and all this stuff, but I was. And then after that, I was teaching full time and I was retrenched because I was the last one to be hired. So first one to be fired, unfortunately. And I went on interviews. This was really interesting. And they basically told me because I'm white and I'm a woman, forget about it. I'm not going to be able to land a tenure position.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was literally told that to my face. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what do I do? So I went back to school and I got another master's in public health at that time because I wanted, a little bit of an edge.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget, I was pregnant with my third child at the time and I went back to school. And then when I finished the program, I decided I didn't want to teach full time. after all that. Yeah.
Okay, hold on, go back.
Yeah.
So you you get your bachelor's degree, you go straight to your master's. Where did you get your bachelor's from?
I got my bachelor's from Brooklyn College.
Oh, so it was so it was a full college. I thought it was
Yeah.
a community college for some reason.
No, 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 no.
Okay, so
It's
you
a
got
full
your bachelor's from, I
uni.
got you. Okay, so you went there for
Yeah.
4 years, and then
Yeah.
you get your bachelor's. Where did you get your master's?
I went to NYU. I got my master's in social work.
And why NYU?
That's also an interesting question. A little bit regret, I have to say. I got into all the programs I applied to,
Mhm,
and I got into Columbia also.
mhm,
And again, NYU is known to be a very clinical school,
right.
and Columbia less so. So I decided to go to NYU because I really wanted clinical knowledge.
So if you had it to do over again, you'd have gone to
I would
Columbia?
go to Columbia, definitely. I
Why?
have to tell you that well, my second master's, I wanted to go to Columbia so badly,
Yeah,
but I was like married, I was on my third kid, and I could not see myself spending the money because, like, what was the point? So instead, again, I totally would have gotten into Columbia. I know I would have. I ended up going to Hunter because it was really cheap.
okay,
But I was like, two chances, two chances.
yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. I just like the idea about going to an Ivy League.
So you get your first master's,
Yeah.
NYU.
Yes.
When did you
Which I'm
start
very proud
teaching?
of.
You
I
should be
start
very proud of it. You should be
Yeah,
very proud of
I
all
was
of it.
proud of. Yeah, I teach at NYU now. So
Yeah.
just to let you know. Yeah, I do teach at NYU.
So where did you go? So when you finished with your master's at NYU, did
I
you then
was work
decide to start teaching?
No, so I was did I teach I might have been doing I might have done adjunct teaching. I taught at Yeshiva University and I taught at Fordham.
Okay.
I can't remember when, but
Why?
while I was getting my
Why did you get
doctorate,
into teaching?
I love teaching. I have to tell you. I love it. I just love hungry, thirsty, quenching people who want knowledge. Could I tell you, if I was independently wealthy, that's all I would do. I would literally sit in a classroom with people who want to learn. I love that environment. There's nothing more thrilling to me, really, honestly. I mean, it's such a beautiful, like, share exchanging ideas and like sharing your feedback and opinion on things, and the whole process is just so compelling. I love it. I really love it. When I'm teaching, literally when I leave my classroom, because I told you this course, I'm beaming. I
Mhm.
literally feel like I'm on top of the world
Yeah.
because I had a positive interaction with a student, or somebody got really deeply vulnerable in class, or I mean, so many things happen. It's magic. It's
Mhm.
literally magical every single time I walk out of that
And
classroom.
you see it in their eyes when they get it.
Oh gosh.
That
Oh
is
god.
just the coolest feeling.
Oh,
I don't even know how to
yes.
replicate it. Like,
No,
I don't,
no.
you know what I mean? And then you go a few months or years later and people show up and they go, "You know, I took a class that you taught and here's what I learned and it
Yeah.
helps me to succeed and I needed it because," right? And you're like, "Right?" And it's literally true. When the student's ready, the teacher will appear.
Oh gosh. Yes. Yeah.
And it's not every time, right? Some classes they show up and they're not ready. And then all of a sudden, one class they show up and you see it in their eyes. And you absolutely, I mean, I don't know. I walk out of the classes that I teach and I'm just walking on air. Like I'm
That's
just,
what I'm saying.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know of anything that's more fulfilling than that in terms, you know what I mean? It's just really cool. So
You
yeah,
know that I still keep in touch with several students that I've had over 20 years. I'm
that
not
doesn't
even kidding.
surprise me at all.
Yeah, I have several students. I have one student who, she has a lot of adversity in her life. Like, I mean, and a huge trauma history and whatever the case is. And she always circles back to me, always. Yeah. I just heard from her last week, actually. You know what
Mhm.
she sent me? She actually she's doing some poetry now.
Mhm.
And she's come from like a really rough part of town. Like, wow, what she's gone through in her life, mind blowing.
Mhm.
And she's expressing herself through lyrics.
Mhm.
She writes like rap songs, and
Mhm.
she sent me 2 examples of it, and I was, like, blown away. I'm like, "Wow, you're so talented." And she was like, "Yeah, I'm finding my voice finally." But yeah, and I have so many students that I keep in touch with. I adore them, literally. Yeah,
When you heard back from her last week and she shared with you what she's doing, how'd that make you feel?
incredible. Yeah. I mean, the fact that somebody wants to share such a personal, private, like, vulnerable part of them, oh my gosh.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
So you do know that you're that teacher to her that she wants to maintain a relationship with, and she wants to report back to, and she wants to stay
connected.
connected, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How does that make you feel?
It's like I said, it is I feel like I have thousands of children. I literally do. I literally feel like I have thousands of children.
Like, you had teachers
Uh-huh.
as you were going through school, you
Yeah.
had teachers that reached you.
That is why I am who I am. I told you I have these women warrior in my lives.
Yeah,
That is why I am who I am. I would
yeah.
not be who I am otherwise. Like, people who inspired me, people who believed in me. Do you know the difference? There's studies done. The difference between somebody who's resilient and ends up being successful is
Mhm,
one thing, somebody who believed in them.
mhm.
It doesn't have to be a parent, it could be a caretaker, it could be a coach, it could be a teacher,
Be a
whatever.
mentor.
One person,
Mhm,
that is what makes the difference, and I was fortunate enough that I was resourceful enough where I would connect to people where I got that,
mhm,
because I did wasn't getting it otherwise, and it's, and again, when I get into my space, which I told you about before, I literally lose sight of that.
mhm,
It's as if I'm that little girl who is fending for themselves.
mhm,
And that is my body, my mind like goes into that space
mhm,
and I can't see past it until I like literally recalibrate and reground myself. So that's like we kind of go into that space. So when you can make a difference in someone's life in that way, there's nothing like it, and I see I mean, listen, I have a practice. I work with people. I see visually, I experience them change their life change.
mhm,
The gratitude that they have.
mhm,
I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing the gratitude that they have and the connection. One thing that I teach people which we don't talk enough about is
mhm,
relational communication.
mhm,
So, like, if I say to you, "Thank you so much for thinking of me," or whatever, right? That's okay. But the fact that you took time and noticed me means so much to me, and our friendship
mhm,
is so incredibly important to me. And
mhm,
I am there for you too.
mhm.
There's a big difference between the 2.
I find this fascinating, and it's exactly why we do this podcast. All these women warriors in your life, starting with your grandmas, right? All these women warriors in your life that have been a big, big part of you becoming who you are,
Mhm.
and now you're that woman warrior to your students. It's
Yeah.
all coming full circle, and this is just fascinating stuff. I mean,
Yeah. Well,
this is why we
I
do this.
try to I mean, I try to be that for my students. I try to be that for my kids, my kids, my personal kids. I try to
Mhm,
be that for my patients, right? The
mhm.
people who I see in my practice. I really do. Do you want to hear something so fascinating?
I do.
The one thing, the way, unfortunately, that I was referred to when I was a child was
Mhm.
selfish, was
Yeah.
selfish. I heard I was called selfish all the time.
Mhm,
Okay. And, maybe that's why, like, I strive not to be selfish, right? Like, I'm on a journey not to be selfish.
mhm.
But it's not even that. It's just so fascinating to me. Well, it was a projection. I mean, that's why it was
Right.
called selfish, but that's besides the point. I know that now as an adult, but, I think about all the things that I do, that I give to others, and it really comes from the gut. It doesn't come from, like, of course, we get secondary gain to everything we do, but I'm just saying, like, it comes from a real genuine place, and an authentic place for me.
Mhm.
And I feel people, I'm an empath by nature. I feel
Mhm.
people like, at my, in my heart.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just like for me, it's what moves me. It's what drives me. It's why I wake up every morning. Literally, it's why I wake up in the morning.
It's what
Yeah.
drove your grandma,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're feeding these people. Just like grandma fed them food, you're feeding them,
I
just in
try.
a different way, right?
Yeah, I do. I try. Yes.
It's a cool thing.
It is a cool thing. You know what? I also, I also have to remember that I'm human
Yeah.
because what you're saying to me is what I've heard my whole life.
Mhm.
Shell, you're amazing. I can't believe how you are and who you are because of all you went through. Wow. Well, guess what? That puts a lot of pressure on Michelle.
Well, now wait a minute. Wait just a second. I'm talking about the person you've become,
Yes,
okay? That's a choice. You
totally.
you chose to get into psychology. You chose to, and your life story takes you there, right? But you chose to do this. You chose to take this on. And there's a part of you that chose to take this on because of your grandma, right? Because grandma took care of people. It's exactly what you're doing.
Hmm.
You with me?
Yeah, yeah.
That is unbelievably fulfilling.
Yes.
And that's what I admire. I'm not telling you that you
Well,
walk on
but
water. What I am saying though, is
yes.
you're a big, big part of people's lives, and you chose to be that. You with me? It wasn't one of those things where, oh well, it just happened, it fell in my lap. Okay. That's not what happened here. You've literally picked yourself up by the bootstraps. By the way, that was my mom's favorite thing, was pick yourself up by your bootstraps, right? So every time I felt sorry for myself as a kid, that's what I heard every time, right? Because it wasn't acceptable that I was going to feel sorry for myself because I was the firstborn son,
Hmm.
the standard, right? So years later, my mother comes to me and she says, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And I said, well, you got to pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
Good for you.
I'm pretty sure, because that's what I heard all my life, right? Well, I mean, I wasn't trying to throw it back in her face. I was trying to say, that's the way I'm living my life. Sounds like that's the way you need to too, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like that was your advice. So maybe that's something you should live by. You with me?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying to you that you walk on water. What I am saying though is what you chose to do in your mission in life is congruent with the way that you've grown up. But you had to choose to do this. You had to choose to help people in the best way you possibly could. You with me? That's what I admire.
Thank you.
That's your secret sauce. The being amazing thing comes from hard work. It comes from dedication. It comes from, you're just not going to accept any outcome other than that. Yeah, that makes you exceptional. But the thing I admire the most is the choices that you've made through this journey to get to where you are now. And what I admire the most is the impact you're having on other people.
Thank you.
I mean, that's a big deal.
It
And I think
is.
it's bigger than you even realize.
It is. I'm not going to say but and.
I'm not trying to put pressure on you. What I'm trying to
No,
express
no,
to you
but
is,
I want you to
this is
know.
cool. Your
No, it
story
is.
is really
Oh,
cool.
oh, it is. It is. I
And
also want I'll end. I also want to give space for, you know, that it's not unilateral. Like
yeah,
it's never just that,
yeah,
right? There's other things,
yeah,
So like what I was saying before, and of course what you're saying, and I feel you,
yeah,
actually, I do. I literally feel you. And I'm gonna say that. Yeah. I feel your kindness and your generosity,
yeah.
Yeah. Um, I'm getting emotional again. We
It's
had
okay.
we had a relational moment.
You're allowed.
Um, yeah. So sorry. what I was going to say is,
Listen to
I
me.
think
You should be
the
proud of yourself.
thank you. I am proud of
I'm
myself.
proud of you.
Thank you. So what I was gonna say, which is important, is for people to recognize that we don't have to be this way, and
Mhm.
we're not, even if we want to be. Like, just by very nature of our humanness, like, we're
Mhm.
gonna be infallible,
Mhm.
you know? And part of my journey, and struggle, I would say, gosh, do you have this effect on everybody?
Yes.
Um, part of my
I love
struggle.
you. Can you tell?
Oh, I know. Part of my journey, I would say, is to also give space for imperfection, to also
Yeah.
give space for mistakes, for not being perfect, for going out of the lines,
Mhm.
for not
Bad grammar.
not yes, yeah, not having that narrative, because that is also very painful.
Mhm.
It's very painful.
Mhm.
So the part of me that allows people to see that side of me, because I know how to do being great. I do. I know how to do that really well. And that's what kept me hard. You know what I mean? The softness comes from actually being human and showing my frailty and
Mhm.
showing my vulnerability and recognizing that it's okay not to be like the superstar,
Mhm.
right? That's what's painful sometimes, because guess what comes up? Fear.
Well, okay, but here's the
Yeah.
thing. If
Yes.
you're the superstar that's hard, you're
Yeah.
impervious.
That's right.
If you're the real
Mm,
Michelle,
yes.
Dr. Michelle, right?
Uh,
If you're the real Michelle,
uh-huh.
you're approachable, people can relate to you, okay? And I would submit to you, you'll have a greater impact
Oh, yeah.
in their lives
Mhm.
because you being you puts less pressure on them.
That's right. Mhm.
It gives them permission to be that 3-year-old little girl with the teddy bear,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. And that's and
By the way,
that
you
that
are amazing, just so we're clear. Okay. Sorry, I had to throw that in there because that's exactly the way I feel about you. Okay. So I want to talk about something else, and we're running out of time, and I apologize. But because you and
yeah.
I could talk for 4 days. I'm not joking. It's crazy. This is really cool. I'm having a lot of fun. I know you can't tell because I hide it well.
You made me cry twice. What
What's
is up
that?
with that? You made me cry twice. What's up with that?
Actually, I'm not counting, but it was 3 times.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a competition. Okay.
Yeah.
Talk about the books. So something, so share with us
Yes.
what it was that happened
Uh-huh.
that compelled you to write your first book. Why did you need to become an author? What was it that drew you to it?
I discovered that I could write and that
Mhm.
I could reach people, and that I started off blogging first.
Mhm.
And I was getting such positive feedback. And
Mhm.
what I tend to blog on is things that I find either that kind of comes up in my practice, or I see people struggling with. Like, again, I want to make an impact. So
Mhm.
anything that I find, it could be something going on in, the world, whatever the case is. So one thing that I found, and I personally have a history with kind of health and weight issues, challenges. I lost about, I would say, 30 pounds or so. I was, I would consider myself kind of a little overweight or chubby, however you want to call it, like growing up.
Mhm.
And I definitely used food for coping.
Mhm.
It was reliable, safe, yeah, accessible, like, perfect thing to cook, right, to help cope. So, I went away for college, I came back and I gained even more weight because freshman 15, and I
Mhm.
just felt exasperated.
Mhm.
Like, I just felt yucky, and I was like, "I gotta do something about this."
Mhm.
And then I was on my trajectory. I mean, I've been working out, and again, I eat clean. I work out 6 days a week for about 30 years. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, without a stop, And I saw so many adults, children, adolescents, teenagers who are struggling.
Mhm.
And the thing that is highlighted to me most is we know how to change behavior.
Mhm.
We don't know how to sustain it. We
Mhm.
don't know how to sustain it. And that is the magic. The magic's right there. The other thing that I found also is that people don't talk about it, especially with, teens, adults, because it's shameful, right? Parents are afraid that they're going to shame their kid. They're afraid they're going to talk something in their children's mind. They don't know the difference between talking about it in a healthy way and creating eating disorders. There's so much misperceptions. And the other integral part of it is we don't talk about the psychological barriers, health and wellness. We talk about food and nutrition and exercise and, again, the practicality of it. We do not talk about the psychological barriers.
We stay on the politically correct level. And
Yeah.
what we need to do is we need to get down here, right? So if you ever have a chance to talk to a marathon runner, if you ever have a chance to talk to somebody who does triathletes or triathlons, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
They have a conversation that's constantly going on. And the conversation is, you're not tired. You're not right. David Goggins is a great example. Okay. David Goggins is constantly having this conversation with himself because he's an ultra marathoner and he's all these things, right? And he's constantly pushing the envelope, but he's constantly having this conversation with himself. And where the rubber meets the road, where the real gold is in this thing, is what that conversation is and how good you get at having it. Because we have this thing and I'm telling you, because you're, here you are a PhD and I'm not, but we have this thing in our mind called an amygdala.
Yeah, it is amygdala.
And I always pronounce it incorrectly. Talk about grammar, right? I'm one of the most articulate people I know, and I pronounce it incorrectly. What's that about? But that particular part of your brain is designed, it's fight or flight, right? It's designed to keep you from, out of harm's way. And so the minute that you start talking about, I'm going to go for a run, it kicks in. And it's that little devil on your shoulder that's going, you know what? It's a little cold outside. You know what? Your hip's bothering you. Your back was sore yesterday. And, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I can do that. That's probably not right. What happens with people like David Goggins and Tony Robbins and some of these people that perform at an extremely high level is the minute that thing kicks in, that's their trigger. And their trigger is they're going. That's it. They're going, right?
Yeah.
Tony Robbins talks about it all the time. He does a cold plunge every morning. It's 59 degrees. He's more man than me. I'll tell you for sure, more man than me. I don't do a cold plunge. I'm not a cold plunge guy. Might be in my future, but I don't like cold water. Hello. But what he does is he goes right away and does it. That amygdala is just screaming at him, right? But he's decided that he's going to control it. That's it. He's going to control it. So he tells it, look, if I say go, we're going. That's why he does it first thing every single morning. That's where the real secret sauce is here. Having that conversation and people knowing what that conversation is and helping them to get to a place to where they can develop that same conversation, right? Because what happens is you can either be an enemy of your mind or you can be a friend.
Well, but you also need to know, what the barriers are, because I write a lot about that. Yeah. And it actually has to do with our neurophysiology and our neurocognition. There's so many components to it. Like I actually dedicated a chapter in both of my books on our thinking process and I teach my patients, if you don't understand that, you're constantly shooting yourself in the foot. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's an absolute skill.
Yeah, it is.
Right? And it's a muscle. It's like
it's a habituation.
right?
Yeah, it's habituation. It's also habituation.
Yeah.
Because our mind again we have to rewire our brain. Like literally our neurotransmitters and our neuroreceptors and our synapses have to be redeveloped. It's like a serious transition that has to be made. So that led me to my first book. The second book, I always felt also like with the first book, I wanted something that's marketable. Again, I felt like it was a good first book. My second book is really a culmination of, I call it the ACE method, which is predicated under acceptance, compassion, and empowerment. And it's very value-based because a lot of my work is very value-based. It leads to mindful decision-making. It leads to groundedness. It leads to, again, being your best self and living the life you want. And I talk about both the barriers. I spend a lot of time talking about the barriers because we have a lot of barriers. Because when we're able to notice that and witness it, that's when we're able to work through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You
And
can't
then
diagnose the problem if you don't know what it is.
exactly. And then also how to integrate it, like specific skills. So that's a culmination. And I'm thinking about a third book as
I love
we
it.
speak. Yeah. Well, my audiobook for my second book is coming out in May, so I'm very excited. That's, exciting. And then I definitely want to write a book on triggers.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's
Important.
not enough written about that. And oh gosh, I'm like beaming from talking about it because
Yeah.
I just have so much to say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's important.
But again, I always, something came up this week. I'll just tell you real quickly because I know we have to go. But the way that I get my content, for my blogs is I think about like what is coming up with my clients,
Mhm.
what's needed out there, what's going on in the world. And this past week, I had a couple of people, it was so interesting, saying to me, I can't say that because I'm going to manifest it,
Mhm.
about all this manifesting
Mhm.
and how counterintuitive it is to the way we think and our wiring. And again, I had this thing with this teenager this week, and she was like, "No, I can't think that way because it's good. I'm going to make it happen." And I was like, "Oh, yeah." Like, I am trying to teach you that it's okay to have anything that shows up. It's more about noticing it. And
Mhm.
you're having these messages on TikTok
Mhm.
that's telling you to avoid, you
Right.
know.
It's like
So
denial.
anyway, so I'm going to totally write an article on manifesting because I just discovered I was like, oh my goodness.
You should. That's important.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I could talk and talk and talk.
Well, we could.
Yeah.
You and
Yeah.
I, we could
Yes.
go forever. No joke.
I know. I know.
I love it. Dr. Michelle Maidenberg, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. This has been an absolute blast and the fastest hour I've ever lived.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign.
I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Me too. Thank
Hey,
you.
come back when you're writing your third book.
I will. Thank you so much for having me.
And we'll talk about it, okay?
Oh, sounds good. Have a great day.
You too. Take care. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.